So I think there are guidelines, there are FOXI guidelines, the gynecologists are very aware. It's a very important test. It's one test which we should not miss. We have got from 2006 an HPV vaccine. So many of the younger women should be vaccinated, and they should have this vaccine from the age of 9 to 11. So it becomes part of the vaccination program.
Hi guys, this is Meena Devan and you're watching HealthSite and India.com. Today I have with me Dr. Anuradha Murthy, Senior Consultant Surgical at Metropolis Healthcare Limited. Hi doctor, how are you?
Very well, thank you. And a little correction, I am histopathologist and cytopathologist at Metropolis Health Services. And I am delighted to talk to you and converse on this so all-important preventive part of women's health that we are very committed to. Wellness is more important than actually treating advanced cancer.
That's true. And to enlighten all our audiences, it's Cancer Awareness Month, and today we are here to enlighten all of you about a very important topic, the much talked about cervical cancer. But to begin with, Doctor, I would like you to enlighten all our audiences with the basics of cervical cancer. What really is a cervical cancer? If you can explain it in layman terms for all the viewers.
Yes, indeed. Cervical cancer is a very common cause, a leading cause of death in the advanced stages. It is very preventable, completely curable, and a very easily managed cancer in the early stages. Through the 100 years that everyone has been grappling with this cancer, many fundamental facts have come to the fore. One is that most of them are HPV driven, which is human papilloma virus, and there are oncogenic types. So during a woman's health and woman's reproductive period, she's bound to have HPV. But if she is screened at an early stage, if she's picked up at an early stage, and if the disease is caught early, it really should not cause the morbidity that it still continues to do. We have, as in India, a group of very committed gynecologists, multiple workforces and policies, and many, percolative bodies that are trying to keep our women and women's health in very good shape. So hopefully, like the Western world, we will soon be able to offer very nice services to our women to keep them well and for early detection and prevention. But cervical cancer, as we know, is actually structured. There are many histological subtypes, and as we know it, the commonest is cervical squamous cell carcinoma with adenocarcinoma now coming up in the fore. Both are HPV driven.
Also, doctor, when we talk about the early symptoms of this disease, how can one really identify, and how can one sort of differentiate from the regular symptoms? When is the point wherein a person or a woman can feel that maybe now is the time to check with my gynac?
That's the whole issue and the crux of the matter, that sometimes we go and present at a very late stage. So it is better to actually reassure a woman in her reproductive age that from age 25 to 50 and beyond till 65, she should have, in the United States and Western world, they have a annual, or then they have now got new guidelines as to if you are negative, where you cut off. So we do have to, when we are counseling women, tell them to include this as a pap smear screening test in a wellness program. and to also inculcate wellness as a group. Advanced symptoms like bleeding, postcoital bleeding, they may be actually advanced cancer. And then when they present, it is too late to treat them very safely. So the most important thing in educating a woman is to present themselves and to be invited to programs which prevent rather than catch the disease at a later phase.
Since we are on the subject of pap smear test, if you could also brief our audiences with what exactly is a pap smear test, and also then let's move towards the history of pap smear test.
This is a very, very fascinating part of medicine and preventive oncology, one of the most successful tests. George Papanicolaou was an immigrant from Greece, and he came to America very early in the 20s, and the test was exfoliative. So when you see a normal phase uterus, it is hormonally primed due to the variations in the cells. One has a very nice methodology to actually morphologically study the cells. So the pap smear has been a test that has been introduced from 1928 and has stood the test of time, and is one single test which is on the mouth of every woman, every person. And it has prevented several advanced cancers. So that is why we emphasize so much on early preventive oncology. Of course, when Papanicolaou discovered and made the test, it was purely morphological, purely on the alterations of the cells. Today we know that we've got a huge group where we have an advantage of having what is called liquid-based cytology and molecular testing simultaneously. So the test has, from a static test, become a dynamic, genotypical, genotyped test. There's a lot in the history. There's a lot in the 100 years of the pap smear. And as it has advanced, still the basic concepts of the atlas, the morphology have not changed.
Also with that, doctor, I really need to understand, is there a particular age limit after which a woman can go for this test?
Yes, the recommendation is, like if you're asking for a very broad, you've asked for the very first question is cervical cancer. Now we know that you can get it from infancy to any period, but we assume that the rarities are removed. We are looking at a screening program. So they have recommended that the woman starts the whole process at about 25 years and continues this till 65 years. And all the testing facilities for a pap smear are actually very well laid out now by ASCO and CAP guidelines. So you start the process of screening. Then if you have every 3 negative cases, you can do it 3 yearly, or you can do it 5 yearly. In some situations, because they've been used to in the original thing of doing it annually, many people still keep doing it annually, but it's not required if you are in safe recommended guidelines. And definitely we have one advantage that, like we get vaccinated and we have protocols. We have got from 2006 an HPV vaccine. So many of the younger women should be vaccinated, and they should have this vaccine from the age of 9 to 11. So it becomes part of the vaccination program. And boys and girls, because you can get HPV in both sexes.
And is this a one-time vaccine?
It has a booster, yeah.
It has a booster. Is there a particular duration for the booster?
No, they've got these guidelines, and the guidelines and recommendations are if you have, like they may vary it if you show some abnormalities according to their protocols.
Also, doctor, now let's talk about the treatment of cervical cancer. And are there any advancements in the treatments with, progressive years?
Yes, of course. The most important thing, as we've said, is we want to catch everything early. We want to treat everything early. So we want to have less and less mortality and morbidity. That's the name of the game in preventive oncology. Now, preventive oncology is a very subjective kind of a method in a large country like ours, with so much layering and so much social, economic. It's a very societal kind of a disease. So we must understand that in an urban setting, in a rural setting, in a resource poor setting, these all have different implications. So for a good screening program to actually work on, you need a good clinic, you need a good colposcopic clinic, you need a good diagnostic pathologist, you need very good ancillary testing, and then you can be very safe. Sometimes when you have camps, which is what we are now all trying, like in one of our campaigns, we have given several tests and feasibilities. We've offered discounts. We are actually encouraging women's health and getting them at an early stage, or saying that you are fine. So I think when that is occurring, there are many options where you can conserve the uterus. You can do, the gynecologists have many conserving methods, because it's not become advanced. When it has become advanced, then surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, brachytherapy, these are all more later options that are available. But as a rule, if you have early diagnosis, you have a much easier future for the patient.
Also, doctor, there have been a lot of talks whether one can still have children after the treatment.
You know, it's a very interesting question. One can certainly have children in the early precancerous conditions. And in advanced cancers, of course, the uterus will have to be removed. And it's quite a radical procedure. So fertility sparing procedures are all available in the early stages.
I think, doctor, this has been very, very insightful. Anything that you would like to say from your end to all the viewers who are listening? Any prevention tips or anything that they should keep in mind?
I think it's a very important message to give to women, that they have to look after themselves, because if they look after themselves, their families are safe and they are safe. And I think in this pandemic, it has brought this to light, that each one of us must look after ourselves, keep our immunities up, try to be as positive and preventive. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, doctor. This has been very, very insightful. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Sorry for all the technology.
A part and parcel of the virtual world. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.